Hello and you're welcome to the Big Tech Show with me, Adrian Weckler. Now, the UK says it's going to ban social media for under 16s, and that means Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and YouTube, not WhatsApp, not Signal, and not YouTube Kids. And there's a whole anomaly there, which we can get into. But we're going to talk about this, about the idea of a social media ban for young teens. It's quite popular in Ireland. A lot of surveys show that parents in particular, and in particular of young kids, like the idea of a social media ban on under 16s. And Ireland, in fact, says that it's looking at a ban. Taoiseach Micheál Martin, asked by reporters after the news of the UK ban broke, he said that Ireland would look at a ban, but that Ireland prefers to proceed in lockstep with the European Commission. What Ireland is actually doing is it hopes to use the digital wallet app, which, by the way, is coming at the end of this year. I'm not sure if you knew that or not. It's going to be something that'll be on your phone, like your Android or the wallet on your iPhone that you hold Ticketmaster tickets and things like that on. And the idea is you're going to be able to put your driver's license and other state ID. And Ireland's idea is to link that with social media use for age verification. Now, there's all sorts of issues with that, but JJ Clark is here with me in studio. And JJ, there are a couple of things. What has struck me about this debate, I'm probably in the minority here, but I'm very cognizant of the fact that most experts in this area, and I mean child protection experts, say that bans don't work and they won't work. And I'm just going to quote to you from one or two of them. So Nolene Blackwell, who is the online safety coordinator of the Children's Rights Alliance, she said this week in response to the UK social ban, she commented that after several months of investigation and testimony on what is needed to be done on the regulation of online platforms and the improvement of safety online in the Oireachtas Committee, not a single expert witness recommended a ban. Now, this is the online safety coordinator of the Children's Rights Alliance saying this. She added that there is not sufficient evidence that a ban is going to work. There's another organisation called Cyber Safe Kids, and Alex Cooney, who's the CEO of that organisation, said simply designating a short list of mainstream platforms, however well intentioned, creates a false sense of security for parents and will not be sufficient to make the online world safer for children. And there's a whole load of other organisations that have effectively echoed that. In other words, experts in this field say that a social media ban, what they're kind of saying without saying it literally, it's a populist shallow move that makes politicians feel better, but doesn't actually get to the heart of the matter. And the heart of the matter is, how do you keep kids safe online? If they're going to go onto social media, or if they're going to try, isn't the better way to try and force the tech companies, the social media companies, to change their algorithms, change their recommender systems, change the kind of content that you get automatically if you're a 15-year-old kid signing up for Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, and without them knowing almost anything else about you, within a few minutes you're starting to see fight videos, and you're starting to see graphic content, and you're starting to see manosphere related content. And isn't that the way to actually tackle this? But that's a much more difficult problem, and politicians like easy problems. Keir Starmer's under a lot of pressure politically in the UK. So what he has announced is something, there's nothing about trying to tackle the content on social media companies, nothing about getting under the hood, but the algorithms, the things that the social media companies really, really fear. And I know this because I talk to them, and if you look at the amount of money they spend on lobbying in Europe and in the States, what they really, really, really fear is authorities ordering them to change the structure and the algorithms and the recommender systems, and to start to get them to do that. They don't fear a ban at all. In fact, in some ways, a ban helps them. And I'll give you the example of YouTube. So YouTube, weirdly, is one of the services that is on the UK social media ban list for under 16s. Now, it has said that it will exempt YouTube Kids. So now we have a scenario where if you are a parent in Ireland, or probably the UK, I don't know, but certainly in Ireland, there is a greater than average chance that in your living room, YouTube is on the telly. So YouTube is mostly now a TV app, particularly in family homes. And it's quite normal for kids, young kids especially, to watch things on YouTube. But now you're going to have a situation where that pattern isn't going to change. There's still going to be kids watching YouTube, but they're probably not going to have their own accounts. So it's going to be the parents' account, which means they might see adult-rated content, and particularly for 14 and 15-year-olds. So if you're 14 or 15, you won't be allowed to have a normal YouTube account. Instead, you will be forced into having a kids account. And of course, you're not going to look at YouTube Kids when you're 14 or 15. So what you're going to do is you're going to bypass the system, as the vast majority of people in Australia have done. This is the Australian e-safety commissioner did a big piece of research a few months after that country introduced its ban, found that 70% at least of 8 to 15-year-olds were still using social media. And there's zero drop in the issues associated with that, extreme content, bullying, all that sort of stuff. So in the UK, 14, 15-year-olds will continue using YouTube, but now they'll be using the adult version of YouTube, because that's the way, because they don't want to see YouTube Kids, but they can't put in that they're true age, 14 or 15. So now they're going to be seeing adult YouTube, which for Google means they get to serve them adult ads. They get to recommend adult content.
Yeah.
Which seems incredible.
Yeah. And it's more problematic than the original issue. But the idea that, is there no government in the world that's looking at what the experts are recommending, which is reining in big tech rather than a ban, which actually puts the onus on no one?
Yeah, so there is, and it is a bunch of unelected people called the European Commission. Okay. Ironically. Right. So the European Commission earlier this year came out with a couple of rulings that have really shaken the big tech companies. They're really worried about it. So one was TikTok. It essentially found on a preliminary basis, preliminary ruling, that TikTok, that its algorithms addict kids and adults, and the algorithms must be changed. Now that's an earthquake for TikTok. And it's the ramifications for that, if that preliminary decision is confirmed, which it will be, I think. But if it is, TikTok is going to have to either change its recommender system or leave the EU. Now, I don't know. Maybe they'll fight it. They probably will fight it. And maybe it will take years. That is the way to deal. That's the only thing that the tech companies actually feared. So the European Commission is doing something similar with Meta. Another preliminary decision, it found that Meta does not successfully keep under 13s off its Facebook and Instagram apps, and that it's addicting them. Okay, similar recommendations and requirements to change their systems. Now that is what that's what the big tech companies fear. We have quite a lot of evidence in Ireland already that bans don't work, and very specifically in Ireland, as in most countries, you are not allowed to use social media if you're under 13. You can take it as being the law, if you like. Now, there's an organization called CyberSafe Kids, which conducts a poll every year of 9,000 primary and secondary school kids. And every year it's pretty much the same thing. The majority of kids are using social media apps. Its last survey showed that 71% of 8 to 12-year-olds were using social media apps like Instagram or TikTok, which have a legal age or a user age of 13, and it hasn't changed much over the years.
Is the issue there, though, the lack of enforcement rather than bringing in new laws?
This is what I'm getting to. So we actually have a regulator called Comisiún na Meán, the media regulator, and its job is to enforce the rule that under 13s cannot access social media. Now, it has had an online safety code in place for 11 months, more than 11 months, but the enforcement stage has been in place for 11 months. And the enforcement stage is where Commissioner Numan goes in and holds tech companies to account for not preventing under 13-year-olds to use social media. Now, I checked this week, no prosecutions. There's no announcements of any action against social media companies. Even though we know for a fact, because I checked with CyberSafe Kids again, that the figures, they're redoing their survey, the figures essentially haven't changed. So 2/3 of kids between the ages of 8 and 12, and by the way, when you get to 12, it's like something like 75-80%, are using social media platforms with a minimum age of 13. We actually have a de facto law, a ban on that in Ireland. And in 11 months of enforcement, the regulator that it's appointed to do it has not initiated any enforcement. In other words, the ban does not work. There are no fewer kids using social media, despite the fact that not only do we have a ban on it, but we also set up, amid great fanfare, a regulator to enforce that law with an online safety commissioner, an online safety code, and pretty much nothing has been done. Now, just to say, when I use nothing, there's an asterisk with that nothing, because I did want to give Commissioner Numan the opportunity to come back and respond to that. I told them that this is something that we would be talking about. And they did come back to me to say that they are part of an EU-wide coordinated action regarding pornographic content on smaller platforms. And the person I was talking to in Commissioner Numan also said that Commissioner Numan, as vice chair of a working group on the protection of minors within the European Board of Digital Services, quote, played a central role in crafting rules around how to keep kids safe and secure online. Spokesperson also said that Commissioner Numan issued a request for information to the X platform, seeking explanation about the measures they've taken to comply with the code, and that they're currently assessing all the services for their compliance with the online safety code, and will take any further supervised action. So it's not accurate to say that they've done nothing. So it's not that they've done nothing. I am simply pointing out that in Ireland we have a ban on under 13s using social media platforms, and it is not observed. And not only is it not observed, but to date, and I can only say to date, maybe next month there'll be some big announcement, but to date there has been no enforcement against social media companies against under 13s. Now, why on earth do we think that if we brought in a law for under 16s, I mean, the evidence clearly is there that parents are allowing under 13s use some social media services. That evidence is absolutely in front of our eyes. Do we really think that if they're going to let a 12-year-old or an 11-year-old use Instagram or TikTok or Snapchat, that they're not going to let a 14 or a 15-year-old, or that they'll even have any say in the matter with a 15-year-old?
But there's such a hard line there, because you mentioned Micheál Martin's comments, and I'll just we'll sit on our hands and wait for an EU-wide decision on it. Shouldn't we, as a country where all of the tech companies are headquartered, lead the way in some sort of move, obviously following the experts' advice?
But I mean, you could turn the argument on its head and say that because we are the country where all the tech companies are headquartered, doesn't that make us slower to enforce?
Because we're afraid, is it?
Because it's a commercial interest, because it's a major industrial interest. Now, I happen not really to fully believe that. You will talk to people who'll say, well, of course they're not going to do anything because, Meta and Google and TikTok employ so many people here. I don't really believe that. It is true to say that Ireland has never been one of the more hawkish countries in banning things and banning social media in Europe. There are other countries that have gone out ahead of us. I would say we're also not in the first wave. I mean, the Brits are clearly now have entered the first wave of it. But to me, that smacks a little bit like desperation. And it also lets the tech companies off the hook, in my opinion. I think what the Brits are doing, I think the Brits know, Keir Starmer knows, that a social media ban doesn't really annoy the tech companies, because the Brits are really trying to get the tech companies in. I think they know that doesn't annoy the tech companies. I think that what annoys the tech companies is what the European Commission is doing. And sometimes you hear this metaphor used. I just want to bring this point up because you will hear this analogy used of social media being like tobacco or alcohol.
Yeah, the smoking analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, the smoking analogy. And it's that analogy is intended as a slam dunk argument as to why social media should be banned. And in fact, it has the opposite effect. And the reason it has the opposite effect is it presents social media, like alcohol and tobacco, as inevitable vices of the world that will be there forever.
That's a good point.
And, you know, cannot be changed. But what we can do is just stop kids using them. And it is the ultimate let-off for tech companies. It's the ultimate let-off for social media companies. If I'm a lobbyist or a strategist in Meta, in Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, I'm thinking, please keep comparing it to alcohol and tobacco, because then you'll just pass a simple law, populist law, banning it, and you won't touch the rest of it.
Yeah, and it's implying, like you said, that it's the furniture, like that.
Yeah.
That social media platforms will be there forever. Also, I think usage patterns for social media for phone use are set in these sort of formative periods of your life, and then when they get to 18, they say, well, your business has to have a social media presence. So it's like, well, smoking's good now. Do you know? So it breaks down. That analogy breaks down. You know,
Yeah.
when you widen it out.
Yeah, and it just gets rid of the moral responsibility to do something more. Because when you talk about kids, I mean, social media misuse and overuse and misinformation and extreme content and all that, that's, you know, it's as bad for adults as it is for kids.
Yeah, like, I mean, you know, I'm a producer on a technology podcast, and I struggle to put my phone down sometimes because of how addictive Instagram is.
Yeah.
I say, oh, I'll watch 2 videos. 10 minutes later, I'm like, what am I doing?
And the fact that you have very limited control over that algorithm is something that the tech companies are happy about. The European Commission wants to change, and the UK government, and maybe the Irish government as well, I don't know, think, oh, well, you know, that's tech stuff that we don't want to get involved. That's inevitable. That's just like human nature. We can't really touch that, but we can ban it for kids.
Yeah. I mean, even if you look at the long term and you say, what are the sort of, what does success look like? Like lower screen time, better mental health, you know, outcomes. Do we actually have a metric for that? No.
A better outcome means more control over your social media algorithms, your recommenders, more control over not being sucked in and addicted, more control over the quality of content that you have, where the primacy is how much you want to use it and not how much they want you to use it. Okay? That to me is the desired outcome here. And like we're going to be talking more during the year about this idea of the digital wallet being used to regulate your access to social media. That's the Irish plan. The Irish plan is that, you know, the wallet, your official ID, because your digital wallet is going to be your passport or your driver's license or something like that. It's your official state ID.
Right.
And that will be matched against your digital wallet. And then that will get you into social media. Now, the proponents of this are very, you know, specific to say that that is not the same as matching your physical passport to get into Facebook, because they say that there's an anonymization process that goes on. It's essentially a token-based exchange, which essentially means that the digital app is simply establishing your details and your age, and then it disregards all of the personally identifiable material when Meta comes asking for it, and just says, yes, I can validate that this person is over the age of 16. That's the idea behind the plan. Even if that is technically sound, and there are questions over it, but even if that is technically sound, there are still questions over whether you should have to submit your passport to your digital app to use Facebook, or by the way, or maybe WhatsApp.
Yeah. And as well, just back to your comment about the smoking analogy, that you're implying that social media is forever. By having to produce a passport, driving license, you are putting social media companies on a pedestal akin to a sovereign nation. That you have to produce your passport when you enter a country. You're saying they're big enough, they're important enough that this is the respect you are due, which is not something that I expected in my lifetime.
No, and you're also asking people, like, you will hear, it's giving a lot of oxygen to conspiracy types as well, who think this is just all a plot for the state to control us.
Orwellian takeover, yeah.
Now, I have grave doubts about whether that is the case.
Yeah.
Governments do naturally want to know more about citizens. They do try and centralize information. We had this situation with the public services card a few years ago, where I think the phrase, I always forget it, it's mandatory but not obligatory, or mandatory but not something like that, where you had to have your public services card to apply for, I think it was a driver's license at the time or something, and that wasn't the way it was supposed to be set up. It wasn't the legislation, but the function creep within government departments and civil service meant that it was irresistible to require that piece of validation. And there is an element to this that smacks of that. Like, if you have to upload your passport to your digital wallet so you can use WhatsApp, I don't know, that seems...
Yeah, I don't like it.
A little...
It's
not police state. I honestly, I don't hold with that. I don't go down into those rabbit holes. But it does seem that, you know, it's a new departure. Now, look, maybe we're in a new era, and maybe the social media companies are that powerful. And to use your example earlier on, and maybe we do have to adjust our expectations of civil liberties. But to me, just a small little alarm bell goes off in my head. Maybe it's something that can be overcome. Maybe as the discussion unfolds, it will, appear to be completely reasonable.
But I wonder if that's your demographic. I wonder if Gen Alpha and the kids that are subverting these bans at the moment, I wonder if they'd have any issue going forward with that's just what I do. I produce my age card digitally,
actually,
and I get on.
Ironically, we know that they do, because there was a piece of research produced by the National Youth Council of Ireland 2 weeks ago, which we covered in the Independent. And one of the things, they had a bunch of issues that they were worried about, like AI companions and chatbots and stuff like that. But one of the things they were worried about was this notion that you should have to upload sensitive information for age verification. They call that two things in relation to what we've talked about on this episode today. One, they don't want a social media ban for under 16s. They think it's counterproductive. And two, that if there is to be effective age verification, beefed up age verification, they don't want biometrics or sensitive ID like passports to be used. Now, that was interesting because that I think the age range there is, I think it's 12 to 22. It's around that. It encompasses young teens and young adults. So that would be a very different, because I see surveys, for example, of parents of 5-year-olds, and they're kind of still in a phase where they're really worried about everything is a threat, and it's 70%, 80% want a ban on social media for under 16s. I totally get that. I absolutely understand it.
Right.
But when you actually talk to the young people themselves, including, by the way, people who are like 8, 19, 20, 21, 22, not just the 15-year-old who's going to be directly affected, they're against it.
That's interesting to me.
And just to repeat again, this is me talking about this, and I mentioned the National Youth Council. It is expert organisations who say that this is futile, and this is not going to work. I mean, I mentioned Cyber Safe Kids. I mentioned the Children's Rights Alliance. There was a public letter signed by 140 children's rights organizations across Europe, and I'm going to read what they called for. They said, imposing a blanket social media ban by defining a new legal age threshold to access specific services would leave children unprotected in other equally problematic online spaces and encourage their migration to unregulated services. And it goes on in that vein. And I mean, I'm reminded when I look at the UK's proposed ban, the services that they've mentioned, the usual ones, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, X, YouTube, which is marginal. I don't see mention of platforms like Telegram. Now, look, it is very possible that it will be a list of 20 different, and the likes of Telegram might be on there. But if not Telegram, maybe something else. I mean, where does Reddit come in? You know, where do... I'm trying to think of other spaces online. You know, is that where we say that we're going to push kids into these places where wouldn't it be easier to in good faith try to engage or force by law the platforms that we're talking about here to make their platforms better? I mean, have we really given up the fight?
But I also think that a key point there is if you strip away what is addictive about apps, people don't use the apps.
Well, that's the tech company's tough crap. That's not our problem.
But by
we represent our citizens.
Yes,
we legislate for our citizens, and the European Commission is doing this for European citizens. I don't know who Keir Starmer's doing this for. I think he's doing it to try and stave off a wing of his political party in his leadership battle.
But by dint of those apps becoming less appetizing to the user, then the kids still get pushed into unregulated spaces. So the same result happens either way.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to see the most toxic, you know, parts of the manosphere, I mean, are you going to see that on Instagram or YouTube? At the moment, you'd see dollops of it.
Yeah, you see a little bit of it.
You'd see dollops of it, but wouldn't it be better to try to address that?
No,
give people more control over what they can see instead of just banning it and then pushing them off into, you know, other sites, other platforms where they're going, you know, are defined by that kind of content.
No, I think it's the least worst option. I just think that the net result is very hard to measure, and will we see it in the next 5 years on a state or, you know, on a European level?
Yeah, and
I would doubt it.
Look, just to say as well, because I know I've presented one side of the story here pretty vociferously, there are those who would argue that you should have both, that you can do all the things that I've been talking about, try and reform the services and via the European Commission, but that also a ban helps as well. And look, there is that side to it, and I kind of see the logic of that in one sense. In another sense, I just don't think that bans really work. We have the evidence from Australia that 70% of teens are still using social media. Now, the flip side to that is that maybe 30% aren't, and the argument will be put forward, isn't that a good start? And that's a fair argument. That is a fair argument. I doff my cap to that argument. That is a very fair point. Personally, as I've said on this podcast before, the one thing I think that the only thing that really does work, other than forcing algorithmic change, is community, parental peer pressure. And we've seen that with primary schools and with mobile phones. It's no coincidence that it was largely a bunch of middle-class primary schools who got together decided that the kids weren't going to be seen with mobile phones anymore, and that meant that if your kid went with a mobile phone, a smartphone, you'd be sort of like...
It was sort of uncouth, wasn't it? Snobbish.
Yeah, there was a sort of a self-regulating snobbery involved, and it worked for the good.
Yeah.
And that's maybe, you know, what might save us. But otherwise, I'm not sure how this is going to work. I don't really think a ban is going to work, but we will be coming back to the digital wallet and the age verification stuff, because there are very considerable issues that we just need to talk about. I mean, I feel we haven't had proper conversations about the ramifications of all that yet, but I think we are going to do in the months to come. Okay, Rory Bones was on sound today. JJ Clark produced this episode, and I'm Adrian Weckler, and you've been listening to or watching The Big Tech Show. We'll talk to you soon.